The little bell above the glass door jingled as Marcus Green, a 17-year-old high school junior, stepped into Eddie's Market, a narrow corner store that sat at the intersection of two worlds, one of opportunity and one of struggle. The air smelled faintly of coffee, floor cleaner, and old newspapers. The hum of a refrigerator filled the silence. Marcus had just finished basketball practice. He still wore his school hoodie, his backpack slung over one shoulder. Sweat darkened the edges of his collar, but his posture was relaxed, the easy confidence of a kid who knew how to keep to himself. He walked down the snack aisle, glancing over the shelves for a sports drink and a granola bar. He'd been in this store 100 times. The owner, Mr. Patel, usually worked the counter, quiet, polite, and fair. But today, it was someone else. Eddie Marsh, a middle-aged white clerk with tired eyes and a smirk that never reached them. He was new. As Marcus picked up a bottle of Gatorade, he felt eyes on him. He turned slightly. Eddie was watching from behind the counter, arms folded. Marcus ignored it and kept browsing. He pulled a granola bar off the rack, then reached into his pocket for his wallet. "Hey!" Eddie's voice cut through the hum of the store. Marcus froze. "Yeah?" Eddie stepped around the counter, his expression sharp. "What's in your pocket?" "My wallet," Marcus said evenly. "Why?" "You think I didn't see you slip something in there?" Eddie snapped. Marcus frowned, confused. "I didn't take anything." Eddie pointed toward the door. "Empty your pockets, kid. Now." Marcus blinked. His chest tightened. The store was small, but suddenly it felt like everyone in the world could see him. "I didn't steal anything, sir." "Don't sir me," Eddie barked. "I've seen your type before, always trying to get something for free. Now take it out before I call the cops." Marcus's jaw clenched. He could feel the heat rising in his neck. The words stung in a way that wasn't new, but never got easier. "I said it's my wallet," he said quietly. "You can see what I've got." He pulled out his wallet and set it on the counter. Inside were a few crumpled bills, his student ID, and a folded photo of him with his mom, Danielle Green, smiling in her campaign blazer. The one that said, "Justice for Riverton County," across the bottom. Eddie snatched up the wallet, ignoring the photo. "Where's the wrapper, huh? You think I'm stupid?" "I didn't steal anything," Marcus said louder now, his voice cracking with anger. The bell jingled again, a woman entering. She froze at the sight of the scene. A teenage boy standing tense and humiliated, while an older man loomed over him. "Everything okay here?" she asked. Eddie didn't turn around. "Store business, ma'am. Kids trying to steal." Marcus's hands shook. "I didn't take anything. You can check the cameras." Eddie sneered. "Sure. And while I do that, you'll bolt out the door." "Not a chance." The woman hesitated. "You sure about that?" she said carefully. "He doesn't look like he's—" "Mind your business," Eddie snapped. Marcus stood frozen. Every instinct told him to walk out, to leave before things got worse. But another voice inside, his mom's voice, told him to stand tall. Never let them turn your silence into guilt. So he didn't move. He just stared back at Eddie, calm but furious. "You got cameras. Check them." Eddie's jaw worked. "Fine. Stay right there." He stomped toward the back office. The woman looked at Marcus softly. "You okay, sweetheart?" He nodded once. "Yeah, I'm fine." But his voice shook. A few minutes later, Eddie returned, his face pale. He looked at Marcus, then at the monitor, still glowing behind him. The footage showed exactly what had happened. Marcus walking in, picking up 2 items, paying in full, and putting his wallet back in his pocket. Eddie swallowed hard. Guess it was a misunderstanding." Marcus stared at him. "You sure that's what it was?" Eddie didn't answer. Marcus picked up his receipt and bag, his hands still trembling slightly. "You could have just asked," he said quietly. As he walked toward the door, Eddie muttered something under his breath, something that sounded like overreacting. But Marcus didn't turn around. The woman near the shelves called after him softly. "You did good, kid." Outside, the cold evening air hit his face. His heart still pounded. He looked down at the photo of his mom in his wallet, her confident smile, her eyes full of belief. She'd told him once, "People will test your character before they even know your name. But you don't have to fight fire with fire. Sometimes, you just let the truth burn on its own." Marcus exhaled, long and steady. He didn't know it yet, But by the end of that week, Eddie Marsh would find himself face to face with that same woman, not as a customer's mother, but as the newly appointed district attorney of Riverton County. And justice was about to have a very personal meaning. Marcus didn't speak much that night. Dinner at the Green household was usually full of chatter, laughter about school, debate over which NBA team would make the finals, the usual back and forth between a mother who worked too much and a son who wanted to sound grown. But tonight, the silence was heavy. Danielle Green, newly sworn in as district attorney of Riverton County, noticed it right away. She'd spent the day meeting with staff, giving interviews, and signing her first round of case files. Her voice was hoarse from answering the same question 100 times. What does it feel like to be the county's first black DA? She'd smiled through every answer, saying what she always did. It feels like progress, but progress doesn't stop at one person. Now, sitting across from her son at the kitchen table, she saw the exhaustion in his face. Not physical, something deeper. "You didn't eat much," she said softly, setting down her fork. "Bad practice?" Marcus shook his head. "Nah, just tired." Danielle studied him for a moment. "You sure?" He hesitated. Then he sighed and pushed his plate away. "Something happened at Eddie's Market today." Her expression tightened. "What kind of something?" He looked down at his hands. "The new clerk, some guy named Eddie. He thought I stole something. Said he saw me put it in my pocket." Danielle's jaw clenched. "Did he call the police?" "No. He went to check the cameras. Then he saw he was wrong." "And he apologized?" Marcus gave a short, humorless laugh. "If you call mumbling and walking away an apology." Danielle leaned back slowly. Her eyes darkened, not with anger, but with that quiet, dangerous calm Marcus had seen before. The kind that came right before she dismantled someone's arrogance in a courtroom. "You handled it how?" she asked. "I didn't yell, didn't move. I just told him to check the footage." She nodded, pride flickering briefly through the tension. "Good. You kept your cool." He shrugged. "Didn't feel good, though." "I know," she said softly. He looked up. "Thing is, I shouldn't have to prove I'm not a thief just because I'm wearing a hoodie and have dark skin." Her throat tightened. It was the kind of truth that burned because she'd lived it too. In college and law school, even in her early years in courtrooms full of men who spoke over her. "You shouldn't," she said firmly. "But you did. And you came out of it with your dignity. That's power, Marcus. That's something they can't take." He nodded, but the words didn't comfort him completely. He looked at me like I didn't belong there. Like I wasn't even a person. Danielle reached across the table, placing a hand on his. "That's what ignorance does. It makes people blind to decency. But don't worry. The world has a way of reminding folks who they're dealing with." Marcus looked at her curiously. "What do you mean?" She smiled faintly, the kind of smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Let's just say, if I ever cross paths with this Mr. Eddie Marsh, we'll see how quick his eyes open." He didn't think much of it at the time. Figured she was just venting, same as any protective mom. But 2 days later, Danielle stood in her office, reviewing a list of local businesses that had pending code violations and small claims cases. Riverton County had been under pressure to investigate discriminatory practices in small retail establishments, the kind of everyday bias that went unreported but caused real harm. And there it was, Eddie's Market, flagged for multiple customer complaints over the past year. Profiling, unlawful detainment, refusal of service. Her jaw tightened as she read the notes. "Well," she murmured to herself, "looks like fate's got a sense of humor." She closed the file and picked up her phone. "Bring me the case file for Eddie's Market," she told her assistant. "We'll be handling that one personally." That evening, Marcus came home to find her sitting in her reading chair, still in her blazer, papers spread across her lap. "You're working late again?" he said, grinning faintly. She looked up, her expression unreadable. "You could say that. Tell me, what did that man look like?" Marcus frowned. Tall, white guy, mid-40s maybe, gray shirt, name tag said Eddie. "Why?" Danielle nodded slowly, closing the folder. "Just wanted to be sure." Marcus tilted his head. "You're not doing something about it, are you?" She smiled, calm but sharp. "I'm doing my job, son, that's all." He laughed nervously. "Mom, please tell me you're not about to go full DA on the guy." Her eyes glinted with that quiet steel that made juries lean forward and defense lawyers sweat. I'm not going after him because he insulted my son, Marcus. I'm going after him because he's been doing it to everyone. And as she said it, Marcus realized something. This wasn't about revenge. It was about justice, the kind that didn't need shouting to be heard. That night, as the house went quiet, Danielle Green sat by her window, watching the city lights flicker across the skyline. She'd spent her life believing the law could change things, but moments like this reminded her why she'd chosen it in the first place. Not for prestige, not for headlines, but to remind men like Eddie Marsh that accountability wasn't optional. It was coming, and this time, it would be wearing a DA's badge. The bell above the door jingled again. The same sound, the same corner store, but a completely different morning. Eddie's Market was quieter than usual. The rain had started early, drumming softly against the glass, washing streaks of dust off the window panes. Eddie Marsh stood behind the counter, half listening to the local news, playing from a small TV near the register. He'd had a rough week. Business was slow, a few regulars had stopped coming in, and the owner had mentioned that a county audit might be coming soon. He wasn't sure what that meant, just that it sounded serious. He looked up as the door opened. Two people stepped inside. The first was a young woman in a neat gray suit carrying a clipboard, wearing the county seal on her badge. The second was a tall black woman in a navy blue blazer and heels, with a calm but commanding presence. Her gaze was sharp but controlled, the kind that made you straighten your posture without realizing it. Eddie blinked. Can I help you folks?" The younger woman smiled professionally. "Good morning. We're here from the district attorney's office. This is District Attorney Danielle Green." For a moment, Eddie's brain didn't process the words. He looked at Danielle again, her polished badge catching the light. Something about her face tugged at his memory, a faint familiarity he couldn't place. Danielle stepped forward, her tone smooth but cool. "Mr. Marsh, correct?" He nodded slowly. "Yeah, that's me. What's this about?" "We're conducting a review of small business practices in Riverton County," she said, "specifically those that have received multiple discrimination or profiling complaints." Eddie felt his throat tighten. "Discrimination? Who said that? I've never done anything wrong." Danielle flipped open a folder. "We've received 5 separate complaints in the past 12 months, Mr. Marsh. All describe the same pattern: unwarranted accusations, searches without consent, and refusal of service to certain customers." He stammered. That's just people trying to get free stuff. You know how it is. Everyone plays the victim these days." Her expression didn't change. "Is that how you see it?" The young assistant stepped aside, quietly taking photos of the posted policies near the counter. Danielle's eyes stayed locked on Eddie. "I take my job very seriously," he said, straightening. "This store's been running fine for years. Nobody ever complained till recently." Danielle nodded slightly, almost to herself. "Sometimes people don't complain because they've learned no one listens." Her voice was calm, but heavy, deliberate. Something in her tone made Eddie uneasy. He shifted behind the counter. "Look, I'm sure this is all a misunderstanding. Maybe you can just give me a warning or something." Danielle tilted her head slightly, studying him. "You believe in warnings, Mr. Marsh?" He frowned. "Sure, yeah. People make mistakes." "Good," she said softly. "Then consider this yours." He blinked. "Excuse me?" She closed the folder slowly. "Last week you accused a 17-year-old of theft without evidence. You searched his belongings. You humiliated him in public. And when you found out you were wrong, you didn't apologize." Eddie's face went pale. What are you talking about?" Her eyes didn't waver. "My son, Marcus Green." The color drained completely from his cheeks. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. The rain outside seemed to grow louder, filling the silence between them. I didn't know, I didn't mean," he stammered. "I'm sure you didn't," she said evenly. "Because you didn't think before you acted. You saw a black teenager in a hoodie, and you decided he fit the story in your head." Eddie swallowed hard, his hands gripping the counter. "It was a mistake, I swear." She stepped closer, her voice calm but cold. "The mistake wasn't that you were wrong. The mistake was that you were comfortable being wrong, because you thought there wouldn't be consequences." For a moment, Eddie looked like he might speak, but Danielle's presence seemed to pull the air from the room. My office doesn't handle petty theft, she continued, but we do handle civil rights violations. And as of today, this establishment is under formal review for discriminatory conduct. You'll be contacted by our office regarding next steps. Her assistant handed him a printed notice. The official seal gleamed on the top corner. Eddie stared at it, his voice trembling. I didn't mean any harm. Danielle regarded him for a long moment. Then, finally, her tone softened, but not out of sympathy, out of purpose. Mr. Marsh, she said quietly, harm isn't about what you mean. It's about what you do. She turned toward the door, rain still drizzling outside. Her assistant followed, clipboard under her arm. At the threshold, Danielle paused and looked back. Next time you decide someone looks suspicious, she said, make sure you're looking at their actions, not their skin. Eddie stood frozen as she left, the bell jingling faintly behind her. For the first time, the little store felt smaller than ever. The walls closing in, the silence deafening. He looked down at the paper trembling in his hands, the black letters sharp and official. Office of the District Attorney. Notice of investigation. Outside, through the rain-blurred window, he watched Danielle Green step into her black sedan, her posture straight, her chin high. And for the first time since he'd opened that store, Eddie Marsh felt something he'd never felt before. Not control, not superiority, but shame. The kind that doesn't fade when the rain stops.